So I would say it is an enunciation of Gandhi's enunciation of his Yuga Dharma. That is where I would really, that is sort of comes right towards the end. And the exercise of Yuga Dharma by a person who takes responsibility and lives in that yuga. So that is implicit in that. I think dharma is only meaningful if you take responsibility. So it is that taking responsibility for an age in which he is alive. So I think that is how Hind Swaraj has to be essentially seen. And right at the end then it comes, he makes that statement of a commitment of his own life to this credo which he has spelt out, this understanding that he has spelt out, and even the means by which he is going to fulfill that dharma. And we can understand here Yug Dharma as epochal duty. Gandhi is a duty person. I think right in the middle of the, when he says what is true civilization, those 4 lines that state it is what is true civilization is performance of duty and acting in accordance with morality, which is dharma, and then in that having a control over yourself, and then out of that control knowing, and as a part of that knowing yourself on that. So Gandhi, this Hind Swaraj is a statement which emerges almost exactly at the mid stage of his life. 1909, he is at 40 and he lived nearly 80. So at that stage, he had, it's a Swaraj statement where he has achieved Swaraj personally. He has taken the vows. 1906 is the point at which he takes the last very major vow of brahmacharya, of celibacy on that, in consultation with Kasturba. And that is 3 years earlier. And so he has achieved a considerable amount of mastery of it's not complete, it will continue in the rest of the life, mastery over self, mastery over senses. And with that preparation, then he makes, and I think that's a very crucial point, that personal preparation for taking on an epochal task and an epochal responsibility and performing the epochal dharma, the epochal duty in that. That's how I see Swaraj. The formative work which went into the writing of Raj, and it's, of course, at the end, a list of 23 books is given. Only 2 or 3 of them are Indian authors. All rest are Western authors. Thoreau is there. Tolstoy is there. I think Tolstoy is the one with the greatest frequency in there. Now, Gandhi read all these books. And besides these books, in South Africa, Gandhi did a lot of religious reading, of all religions. He read the Quran, the Holy Quran, he read the Bible, and he had extensive discussions on these things all the time in South Africa, whenever he was visiting England and whenever he was visiting India. You see, Gandhiji is that period, although it is South Africa, but he is traveling and he is in touch through meeting directly or through correspondence with people, with Tagore, with Gokhale, with Tolstoy on that. He takes the argument of people who, almost all people at that age, who are seriously concerned about the crisis of civilization and crisis of that age. I think the reading at the end suggests that. But then from there, I think, again, as we know with Tolstoy, people, they go into the tradition. They go into what is one would call the perennial wisdom on that. So they draw upon that. They draw upon tradition and the wisdom from tradition on that. So this too, I think we've got to learn from Swaraj. So it's not just in contemporary debates and contemporary intellectual activity, because sometimes I find that that is another problem of critiques of modernity. They remain confined within the post-enlightenment framework of rationality, of debate and discussion, and try to find, even postmodernism is located in that, because they want to leave tradition behind. They are afraid of tradition. I think this has been brought out by many people, especially people like A.K. Saran, sociologist, and I think Ashish Nandi also probably. The relevance is not, it's not a blueprint for anyone. It's not relevant as a blueprint, but it is a mode of thinking, of analyzing. Of course, 100 years later, more than 100 years later, from Hind Swaraj, the world has changed, the civilization has changed. Yes, some of the basic parameters remain the same, but we are much beyond that. Technology, science have progressed further. The whole political scenario is very different. Societies have changed. Now we are what we call globalization. Gandhi talked about, at that time, modern or Western civilization. And today we are in a period of globalization. But globalization is a child of modernization, is an expression of the present, of modernity. So, but we have to update our understanding. Here too we've got to ask for ourselves the validity of ahimsa, non-violence, which Gandhiji made a premise for his action. And I think that we have to ask that. I maintain that validity remains, because violence has grown, violence which is part and parcel of modernity. It has not diminished, it has become more diffused, it has become much more dangerous than even when it was in Gandhiji's time. And we saw in the 20th century how violence unfolded in various forms, whether it is the two World War, or whether it is the Holocaust, or whether it is the partition of the various partitions which have happened of various polities, as a result of the end of the empires and so forth, and post-empires also the violence which even continues today. What is terrorism? It is a violence of both sides. It's a violence there is a violence of the state, and there is a violence of those who are dissatisfied with the state of things as they are. So I think then the Gandhiji's mode and whole basis of violence, the principle of the violence, maintains its validity, and I think Hind Swaraj validity is both in personal as well as in civilizational terms, but updated to the 21st century where we live today. I think then the task to give it relevance, I mean its relevance is there, but to get hold of that relevance, you have to write Hind Swaraj for yourself.